Welcome everyone. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on our 4th edition of the TTG Conversations webinar series. Now we had a long break between the last edition and this one because our team was really busy getting the virtual ITCM China and CTW China off the ground. That was on August 3rd to 6th, to the 6th I think. So since that's done, we can turn our attention back onto the TTG Conversations, and I'm really happy to be back here. I can't see all of you, but I'm really happy to be able to do this session once again. So here in the business event space, dark clouds are starting to part a little more, giving rise to some increasingly positive news headlines. We know that more and more governments in our region have started to approve the resumption of business events, subject of course to some health and safety restrictions. This has helped to reignite some domestic face-to-face events, along with a rapid pickup in some online and hybrid events. So we are also seeing some advanced inquiries into overseas events starting to come in. So I'm very curious how these changes are going to impact how we do business and more importantly, how destination CVBs are going to now respond to these new changes. And so today, to bring light to this topic, please welcome 4 wonderful ladies who are undeniable experts and leaders in the business events industry. First with us is Karen Bolinger, who's Managing Director APAC for PCMA.
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
How are you?
Next, very good, very good. And next we have Nichapa Yoswee, who is the Senior Vice President Business with the TCEB, Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau. Hi, Nichapa.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Very well. So now we have the third speaker, Kitty Wong, Chairwoman for K&A International and member of the World PCOA Alliance. Kitty? Kitty, you gotta turn on your video, Kitty.
I did.
Okay, we will see you. We'll see you in a bit, I'm sure.
You're not allowing me to turn it on. Okay.
Okay, there you are. Very good. Okay. And our 4th speaker is Michelle Sargent, who is the Director for CWT Meetings and Events, Australia and New Zealand. So Karen and
everyone.
Michelle, they're both based in Australia. Karen is in Melbourne and Michelle is in Sydney. And Kitty is dialing in from Taiwan. And Nichapa from Thailand, in Bangkok. Yeah. Sorry, Bangkok in Thailand, not Thailand, Bangkok. Sorry.
I think we knew that.
It's an all-girl team today, Karen. We're very excited.
It's an all-girls team. It's a girls' talk show here now. Yeah.
And none of us are shy. So.
And we're going to go on and on as well.
Correct. I hope they've all got wine wherever they are, because it's wine o'clock here in Australia.
Okay, great. So we're going to get serious here, yeah? Okay. So we're going to start the conversation going. First, a question for Kitty and Michelle. I just want to get an understanding of what planners and your clients are now looking for when contemplating destinations, venues and vendors for physical events that may be held domestically or overseas. So tell me, what are their considerations now different from, pre-pandemic times? We can start off with Kitty.
Hi, everyone. As you know, that Taiwan has not been locked down. And the activity, the government allow us to reopen domestically from June the 7th, which is 2.5 months, almost 2 months already. So a lot of things are going on locally, and we just did a 800 PAGs Congress in Taichung. The clients are now more cautious about safety. Although we don't have, knock on wood, local domestic cases, but there are a few clusters somewhere that we cannot find, and there are overseas coming in cases. I think hygiene is now, safety is now the more concern of than budgeting. And we just had this 800 people that we had to have coming in from this side and going out from that side, thing going on for 2.5 days. And in the past, people would just would not follow, but now everyone follows it, which is a good thing that the Taiwanese are trusting our government and really very cooperative.
Good. Okay. I hear you. Safety and hygiene first over budget. Yeah. How about you, Michelle? What are your clients asking for now?
I think the big thing that we're hearing is that everyone is expecting some flexibility in regards to contracting. So there's a couple of different things happening. First and foremost, a lot of our venues are actually looking at doing business easier. So a lot of our hotels looking for quick traction are producing what they class as a COVID light kind of contract. Rather than your normal 3 or 4 page contract, this is purely just a 1-page contract, which makes life a little bit easier just to get it over that line. You know, it is most important, of course, that in regards to this flexibility that COVID is taken into the equation. I, for example, only received an RFP late last week from a client who specifically had highlighted the fact that they need a clause included for all venues, which means they are able to cancel, you know, 30 days out with no penalties. So this is kind of a new era in our industry, because what we need to ensure is that as much as we need to accommodate the client's needs, how are we being reimbursed for our time, and how are those venues being reimbursed for their time that they've already put into this. And as Kitty mentioned earlier, the safety issue is obviously of major interest to everyone. All venues will be required to have a COVID safe plan. As a PCO ourselves, we have one ourselves for our clients, but we do have the same expectation of venues as well, that they have those plans in place.
Well, I'd like to add something, Karen. Michelle mentioned about a clause putting out that in 30 days there's no penalty. Since SARS 2003, our company had included a term saying that if you cancel before then, we're not charging you anything, or you're going to compensate when this is done. So it was called the SARS clause. And it seemed to be, in the past, people said, why are you putting this in? I said, just sign it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't help. If it does, and then it helps. It's not helping now. We don't need to argue it because the lawyer has gone through it. And the clients know that we have the clause. I think we should be more aware of that. And like Michelle just said, now everything is much simpler than before.
Okay. Let's turn the attention to Karen. We'll hear that the confidence in overseas events is still generally low. The state of public activities is still at the mercy of the virus. And a destination could go from being open for events today and then back into lockdown the next day or next week. So it's really tough times, but do you think it's wise for CVBs to go silent now? You know, what roles does a CVB need to play during a crisis like this?
No, it's not a good time for CVBs to go silent, but I think there's a different set of messaging that needs to occur. And some of that's actually around, you know, really showing that you're a true partner and you're caring for your clients. And I think some of the things I'd like to think about is, you know, destination marketing organisations or convention bureaus really showing leadership, and that's leadership amongst their community from a supply side, but also leadership amongst the event planners. And I think, you know, the world has known and recognised, and all the research is telling us, is that event planners are in a world of pain because they're not fully sure what's the next move. It's just so unnerving. And, you know, we're not even talking about technology and pivoting to virtual events. It's actually about, you know, how do I sustain my organisation with the events that I've had? How does that actually help, you know, me monetize my organisation so that I can keep the employees going? And then, of course, there's the layers of safety, etc. So Convention Bureau's role is actually giving confidence back to those planners. And also I'd actually say that a Convention Bureau should be really thinking about what they actually have within their own toolkit. So, you know, I think the hygiene factor is 101. I do not think anyone will go to a destination without levels of hygiene in it. I think it's that whole other level about when you talk contracts and partnerships, and that's what a contract is. It's a partnership. It's not just a transaction. And I think that convention bureaus need to be thinking of that and how they then communicate that out. So I think there's actually a lot in there that convention bureaus can be doing to make sure that clients are kept informed, they're kept warm, and they're actually truly seen as engaging beyond what I would term the traditional transaction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that leads a good flow into Nichapa. I want to hear more about, you know, TCEB's playbook. You know, in a number of my interviews with event planners, TCEB has come up as a great example of an Asian CVB that is doing it right in with its communications program. So can you tell us how TCEB has approached industry communications throughout this crisis, as well as a support system you have established to help local stakeholders and overseas buyers maintain their future event plans in Thailand?
Right. First of all, sawadee ka. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Good day to you all. I think, first of all, I always would kickstart my presentation or my talk with a word of gratitude, and I would like to do so again now. I would like to say thanks to all the medical and volunteers, professionals, medical professionals and volunteers who had always been risking their lives for our well-being. So thank you very much. A little bit update on Thailand. The stringent of the government had actually applied a very stringent safety and hygiene measures onto the whole country. And I believe that their hard work and also their intention that gave out a good result. Right now, up to this very day, Thailand has been ranked #1 in the world in terms of global COVID recovery index, which is the index created by the Ministry of Science and Technology in Malaysia. So that somehow shows how serious we are in Thailand in response to COVID. Not only in terms of, you know, the response from the government, but also how we can come together as one in terms of tackle personal hygiene and also the community hygienic system.
Mm-hmm.
I think as for Thailand, we have so many crises in the past to thank to, because of the crises have taught us that we better be prepared than sorry. So since early February, we already set up MICE COVID Info Center. You talk about communication. This is one of the primary tools that we deployed to not only to monitor the situation, but also to provide intel and insights, or even give out necessary recommendations to the stakeholders in the industry, and sometimes give out the official statement, not only to the domestic operators, but also international clients on what is happening in Thailand, what to expect, and what are the areas that they have to prepare themselves if they want to come to Thailand or travel around the country. That's #1. I think #2 would be that we come together with the industry and also on the government side. We believe that we need to proceed with speed, especially in terms of crisis. And the plan is to tackle the pain points that the industry would have. For example, of course, Karen just mentioned how they can keep their business going in this pandemic era. So what we did is basically we relaxed our support criteria. We even provide special funds on to the venues for the hygiene practices so that they can boost the confidence a little bit to the existing customers and hopefully the upcoming customers. We also provide special funds to promote domestic MICE, and that somehow would hopefully can kickstart or rotate the domestic economy a little bit. We also work on a very extensive communication campaign. We connect and we engage with our customers. First, of course, to check on the safety and well-being. Secondly, to gain the commercial insights so that we can monitor, we can work with our customers, and we need to identify what are the trends, what are the fears that they are having, so that we can come up with whatever packages that can really translate and give a proper answer to our clients. So in terms of communications, we basically gave out a few statements to the industry, and each piece of communications would carry a different messages in different period. For example, we believe that MICE is people business, you know, it is about people. So the first communications that we have is about everyone matters. Then we talk about how we can stay positive so that we can move forward together. And we also suggest it can be right, it can be wrong, but this is how we want to connect with the industry. So we suggest a possible business model post-COVID to the industry. And the last one is to give some encouragement to all stakeholders worldwide, customers, suppliers, key stakeholders, on how to pioneer on the new norms. Well, when we talk about new norms, there are a few things that we did basically, and I think we are pretty, we did okay in that front. First is we collaborate with local associations and come up with MICE hygiene discipline or protocol. Basically, this will be the new norm SOP for the operators in each touch point. For example, once our customers landed at the airport, what would be the new norm that they would see? What are the operators would provide in terms of safety and hygiene? The DMC, what would they do? The hotels, throughout the whole journey of the customers, we have a specific hygiene SOP in each area. And then we use this SOP to lobby the government. So at the end of the day, they finally agreed that they reopened the whole MICE sector in Thailand, and it happened in June. So up until now, or until the end of this year, we have series of exhibitions and events, including some mega events that are on schedule, and hopefully we can continue with that momentum. The other area in terms of new norm would be that we work with the associations, you know, getting the insight. And right now we have series of subventions to directly translate according to size and time of the event for next year, starting this October until next year. So thanks to the past crises.
You're ready to go. I think someone was asking a question earlier about Thailand and why, if everything is looking terrific with your numbers, people aren't, you're not reopening your borders, should I say, until 2021. But I suppose, I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking that I make the assumption that as much as Thailand is looking absolutely spectacular, there's no guarantees that your neighbours and the rest of the world are in the same boat. Is that right?
Yeah, I think this is the sort of the philosophy that the government is now working on, or base their operations on at the moment. Because of course, even though we need, you know, incomes from overseas, but we cannot do so at the expense of public hygiene and safety.
Yeah.
So until the vaccine is found, and until you know, Asia is getting more ready, and all believe that Asia will come up first, you know, in this situation. Until then, we will first of all depend on domestic MICE, but at the same time, the government is trying very hard to sort of negotiating, working with some neighboring countries, especially in Asia, on how to have, in some countries like Australia, you would call it travel bubble. But behind the travel bubble concept, there are series of agreements, you know, and protocols that two parties.
We love a bubble in Australia, and we've got lots of groups who want to come to Thailand. Can't wait.
Well, just having a name like Bolinger means bubbles, right?
I love it. Couldn't have a better surname except for champagne.
Correct.
I'm working on one for APAC Congress, the bubble, because there are a few people came in a few days ago. Maybe you know that the Secretary of Health, US came to Taiwan. We put him in the bubble, and that seemed to work. And so we probably will fly in our president. What's his name? James Reed. Same way. I mean, the board.
I think
not sure yet.
Yeah, and I think to Nichapa's comment, I think that's actually a challenge for every country around domestically. We all might be travelling okay. And look at what's just happened with New Zealand in the past 2 days. So they've locked down Auckland because they had 4 COVID cases, which has actually now spread to a couple more. And they found out that the people who had them, it was in fact a family that had come back from Samoa. So again, you know what I mean? That actually just keeps setting us back all the time.
Exactly.
And so, you know, I understand government's aversion to risk in those instances, but it's a challenge for our industry because we want to generate the freedom that we had previously about moving around. And so I think, you know, if there are good protocols in place to create the bubbles between countries, that would hopefully be super helpful. But I mean, I even look at a country like Australia where we've got our entire country in various states of lockdown, you know, so I'm in Melbourne and we're completely locked down. I can't go beyond 5 kilometres of my neighbourhood. But, you know, Queensland are having events. Sydney are having events. So it's just such a hard thing to plan around. And I think, you know, the events in our industry, we plan so far in advance and we just have to be able to have mitigation plans in place to actually consider that. And that's actually at destination level, but, you know, supply level and certainly PCO level. So I think we've just got to think more creatively about how do we counter that.
Right. And now that technology would play key. Of course, everybody is talking about hybrid, but again, at the end of the day, hybrid can serve the needs at that point of time. But people are still very eager to meet face to face.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yes.
Right. So hybrid can be an interim cure, I would say, to get the business going. But at the end of the day, technology will continue to be in the event industry, but in a different format or serve the different needs according to different time.
Correct.
Yeah, and our job is to bring people to let them experience. This is all gone, hybrid or virtual. We need to connect and see how long, but there's no answer for it just yet. And we have to try and push, you know, this is how as a human, that we have to keep trying and take the risks. If you don't take the risk, there's no chance. So we are trying to, whenever I could, I would say reopen, but with the right mind and with the right way. But what is the right way or the right mind? We are just taking baby steps to find out. But we definitely need to reopen no matter what we do. It's just the ultimate goal is to reopen.
And the challenge is we're actually beholden to our governments. So, you know, we can lobby and do everything we like. At the end of the day, they hold the key, right? So you know, and their first and foremost imperative is the health of their community, then their economy, and then of course we're part of that. So it's you know, we're in the food chain, but there's a lot going on for us, and I think it's difficult when you're actually waiting for someone else to determine your future, right? So I think we've just got to think about
especially for control freaks like us.
That's right. It's like, do it today. Come on.
But I think the way that MICE is reopening, you know, with very controlled attendance, the clear steps that must be taken. I think that's a perfect example of how countries need to reopen in a very structured way. You know, I mean, the tourism players, some of them, in fact, quite a lot of them are you know, that are doing, you know, restricted entry, restricted capacity, scheduled arrivals and all that. Those are perfect examples of how life could resume. I mean, we can, at this point, we cannot expect to all let's go out into crowds again. But if you want to get an example of how we can return to a bit of normalcy, I think that's the best case study, best examples.
Right, right.
Great.
And I think that during the time of adversity, you know, that it is a time for creativity. So anything can happen. Let's just say that we have a clean floor to build our new home.
And you know what? I think it's actually, to a degree, exciting for us here in APAC, because we've first of all had some history. You talk about your experience with, you know, SARS and MERS that was in the region. And that's actually set you guys up in very good stead. And whereas, you know, Europeans and our North Americans, maybe not so much. And I'd actually even say, you know, counter Australia and New Zealand to a degree. So we've got some experience already. And I think I really like what you said, Karen, about setting the pace, because so many people think events and they think crowding, but it actually can be much more measured and controlled, because we know who's going in and out of our events. You know, we can control all of that. I think the challenge is the travel journey.
Yes,
you know,
I agree, Karen.
leave the house to getting in, whether it's a cab here in Melbourne or a cab when I get into Bangkok. What's the control level of that? And what's the appetite of our customers, you know, the corporates, the associations, the people who are booking them, to allow their own staff to be exposed. And I think that's a challenge we've got to set ourselves about, how we actually overcome that, because they're the ones who'll press the button yes or no. So we can hybrid all we like, but if they're not going to send them, we've got no one, right? So I think we've just got to think about some of those things.
And also, I think not the smaller meetings. The CVB should look at all those smaller size events and then those mega event that they're after, so they really look good. You know, the CVB won a case of 100,000 people, Now maybe we aim at the smaller ones, you know, and really that can have an impact to your local society and really do good to your you know, mutually. So my prediction, can't say prediction, we don't know anything about the future, but people tends to be more cautious when they think of traveling. Like before, when TTG asked me, if you wanted to come to Shanghai for ITCMA China, sure. You know, without thinking, I'll go. But now I would think about it. Yeah, am I going to take the trip? And I have to have a itinerary. I have to follow this and that. So people would be more cautious in the future, and the size of the events or meetings will be smaller that we can handle.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah. I think based from the research that I did with many DMCs and also organizers, the size would definitely be smaller, not only this year, but until the, maybe up until next year or the year after next. Yeah. And right now, as a CVB, the subvention program that we did, we mostly give out the financial support to the size S rather than in the past size L or XL. So the plan is to make sure that we have events going on, because once we have events, it really drives the whole ecosystem. It's not just, you know, the economy, but the whole stakeholders, value chain, you know, series
the confidence of everyone.
Yeah. Yes.
That is the main thing.
Yeah. And also it gives the experience to all the stakeholders, the suppliers, on how to run a hygienic in a new norm. And then once they have those experience, all events that would come after, it would be easier, and they can boost, they can tell, they can share the intel and knowledge. And I think that is a very good thing that we have from running any events, commercial aside.
Yeah. Okay, let's break now for a quick poll. I want to hear from the audience, you know. Can we bring up the poll, Lynette? Okay, what do you need a CVB to do most now for you during this pandemic? Be an information hub with daily updates on all matters that can impact an event decision, provide heftier financial support, open doors to special treatment that will give your event groups travel priority, or be responsive throughout the planning process. Let's get your answers in there. We'll wait a little for the responses to come up, and then we can see whether what the audience feel about this mirrors what we have been discussing. Yeah.
This is where we could chat amongst ourselves, ladies. We're not short of that.
We're never normally quiet.
I was going to say, I'm a bit concerned.
Karen, I think someone just, lovely Victoria Wales from NZ was asking a little bit more about that information that you've heard in regards to NZ.
Oh, right, yeah.
Was that in the local newspaper or, you know, online? Where did that information come from?
It was online on the trusty ABC.
Oh, that you always know the ABC's good.
Yep, if it doesn't come off there, it's not happening, right?
That's,
so, yes.
That's funnily enough where I look as well. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So it pinged up earlier on today on it. So
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
It does make sense though. It does make sense given that they've just come back from somewhere.
Well, you would have wondered how they would have got it if no one's travelled, right? If the borders are closed down, but they've obviously got some kind of access going on somewhere. But, you know, you just had to look at what's happened in Melbourne. A few guards went astray and look at us in lockdown 4.
We can't, I think it's difficult to keep locking things down whenever some cases happen. We have to learn to live with the COVID-19 sensibly and realistically.
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually the conversation that's probably going on a lot here around that, about, you know, how do we actually learn to live with it without stopping our lives, pretty much.
Exactly.
Well, look at, we go to the hospitals, visiting people, going to the doctors. We're never fear of getting infected by any of these infectious species before. Well, are you going to be scared of not going to the hospitals because of the unknown? No. With proper precaution, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You can go to the moon. Why can't we go somewhere else? If you're not cautious enough, you go out and drop dead, right, on the street. You have to be scared or whatever you do. Freedom is something that we had in the past 200 years. Some people only had it just now, or some people don't have it. So don't talk about freedom. Freedom is something that you have to behave yourself and then pay people respect, which is take good care of yourself and don't harm other people. Wearing a mask is something that you must do. I'm sorry, I'm just getting...
Should we send you back to our friends in North America, Kitty? Tell them how it works.
I just did, right? And now don't talk about the freedom. I have the freedom. No, you didn't. Our ancestors never had it. We only had it. It's so precious. So be whole. Sorry.
All right. Let's get to the poll results here. We have the majority are saying that, you know, be an information hub with daily updates on all matters that can impact an event decision. So the role of a CVB they're asking for now is to be an information distributor and information hub. financial support, open doors to special treatment, and being responsive throughout the process. Those are coming in at equal numbers. So that is quite similar to what we've been discussing, right? About how we need to not remain silent and be as open as possible with information that will help with the decision-making process. Thank you so much for participating in the polls. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next question, and it's back to Kitty and Michelle. Michelle, maybe you can start first. Do you see regional CVBs evolving their roles the right way during this pandemic? Are they providing the support that you and your clients are asking for and needing the most?
Well, I'm thrilled with the poll results because my whole premise behind the CVBs is that they have to become that one-stop shop. You know, they have to become a hive of information, and you know, TCEB in particular are exceptional at leading the way in the APAC region in regards to this. You know, I really don't want to be sent, you know, 50 different emails a day from different venues across Thailand. I want to be sent one piece of correspondence, whether that be, you know, daily, weekly, fortnightly, whatever it is, with all the information grouped together. That, and you want one trusted point of contact. I think that what we've learned in this pandemic is that's what we're all really needing and requiring at this time. So having that one spot we can grab really important information, whether it be, you know, COVID cases in Thailand of the day, whether it be airports opening, different venues and what they're up to. I would love to hear it straight through one source. I suppose that, that is a major thing for me.
Yeah. Kitty, your views, Kitty.
Yeah, we have the CVB, we don't call it CVB, we call it Meet Taiwan. I tried, we're doing the ECA Congress this year, right, in Kaohsiung in November, but we don't know how we're going to do until recently. We're going to do a hybrid meeting. And so Meet Taiwan is working closely with the ECA office now, and before then we you know that how many masks we're making. We're making 20 million masks a day now. So I suggested Meet Taiwan to send a greeting cards like this. It says "Until we meet again," and all of the ECA members signs here. It's actually a mask cover, okay, and it's using the best technology here that everyone will wear.
I love that color.
Sending it out to all the ECA members. Have you received it?
No,
not yet. So everyone will have one of these that you can insert the medical mask on within, and there's a lining.
A little hole in there. Okay.
You know, when you wear it, you think of us. It's kind of a nice gesture, like TCEB. You know, you send out all the videos and then the butterfly, you know, something that more practical. When you think of Taiwan, you know that we're not locked down and we're doing well. So it's pretty amazing for the Meet Taiwan to take my advice and do one of these things that we can send out our greets to. It's kind of evolving because for Taiwanese, we're very shy. I mean, I don't mean me. I mean,
we gathered that, Kitty.
Sending greetings.
We love Kitty.
Well, I'm an exceptional. And, this is one, and then in fact, there's no answer to anything just yet. So we can't force the CVB to do things that you don't know how to do it. You know, how do you approach people? Too pushy is not good. Too mild is waste of money. So I think that we just have to work hand in hand now, from now on. In the past, we literally ignored Meet Taiwan. Now we have to really hold hands and go.
I love that. Every bureau will be sitting here mortified.
I'm just blunt.
I want to bring the one of the results to talk. Let's talk a bit about the results. Heftier financial subsidy. Now, Karen, you have been on the bureau side for many years now. Do you see heftier financial subsidies being useful in influencing a decision during critical moments like this?
I actually think, so I have probably a bit more of an alternate view on this. And I think that financial subsidies can really dilute the true value of our business. And I know destinations do it. We were one of them, can't take it away. But I actually would like to think people are a little bit more creative, a little bit more strategic in what it is they're actually doing. Because if you're buying business for a very short period of time, in my opinion, that's a transaction. It's not actually a partnership. And I think, you want repeat business, you want long-term business. And I think that's why you've just got to be a little bit smarter. So I think there will be definitely organisations that go for that, particularly in the association sector, and I think particularly in the national association sector. So, for instance, I'll use Australia as an example. Not all bureaus subsidised at the national level. I would suggest that there's probably going to be a bit of that going on, and TA will probably back into that. The same may or may not be happening in New Zealand. I don't actually know. Do I think it's a way forward? I think it's a really short-term fix. And I think, I think we've actually got to move out of that. And I get we're going into a highly competitive environment. I think we actually have to think about stimulating demand out of areas, and whether it's corporations and associations, that may not have met before. Because let's face it, we are going to be super reliant on our domestic market. And we don't want it just being diluted everywhere. We want to grow the pie. So I think, if you ask me, people have got to get smarter about how they're actually stimulating that. And that's at national level as well as at state level and city level. So I would like to think that it is a short-term fix. And I think, the funding should go towards new events that have maybe never been held before. It should go towards getting those people, because I think, what the lady said about small meetings, it's not going to be thousands or hundreds. It's going to be, maybe some team meetings or boardroom meetings that might actually go off site for 20, 50 people. And I think if we're encouraging them out of their office and into that, whereas they may not have done that previously, at least it's keeping our ecosystem going. Rather than just giving someone a big check for something that they may have done. And I get that we're in a world of pain financially. So I just, for me, I would err on the side of caution. And I would think, let's actually really think a bit more strategically about how we deliver new business in our own communities, and then actually work towards delivering, in my opinion, APAC business to our own communities as well, because I think there's a lot to be said for that, versus, we've all been very focused on inviting our North Americans and our Europeans to our country, and absolutely the right thing to do. But we've actually got a lot of people in our own backyard that we potentially haven't spoken to or grown or stimulated, and whether that's associations, that want to grow, develop. If you think about it, headquarters of associations predominantly based in Europe and in North America. So why do we not actually have some of those headquarters in APAC? Why are we not actually growing that market so that we're not necessarily reliant on others to turn the taps on and off? So that's where, for me, I'd think a little bit differently.
So Karen, just from a PCO point, and Karen's, should I say, from a PCO point of view, can I just add my 2 bobs worth in?
Yes.
I suppose, we talk about some form of monetary rebate incentive to get to destinations. At the end of the day, I really want to see everyone make money and keep it within their own destination. That's the key. What really floats our boat and what really floats the boats of our clients are value adds of some sort. So whether that be investing in an Indigenous group in Uluru to come in and do a beautiful welcome ceremony for our group, it's giving back to the community.
Correct.
It's making us feel special in that we've got something that maybe no one else has got, no other group has got. got. But those little value adds make such a massive difference. The other one, which I really love, and I hope that specifically TCEB is still doing, and especially at this time during COVID and post-COVID, is the fast track system. Now, we've got groups arriving in from Australia of 200 packs where, they don't want to be standing around an airport for 2 hours. Having that fast track is the biggest plus for us getting that business over the line. So let's think outside the square is what I'm saying. It does not need to be a monetary rebate. It is those other more creative incentives that really get us going and make it very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Do you see value, Michelle, do you see value in a CVB now perhaps offering you different experience ideas that your groups could enjoy in a destination, considering COVID infection fears? For example, that more people are telling us that they want outdoor venues where the air could actually keep flowing, or places that are not so congested, a bit out of the way, so to speak. Do you appreciate ideas like that?
100%, and you've hit the nail on the head. People are not wanting to be in confined spaces, which is why the issue is not being in the destination, but traveling to the destination.
Mm-hmm.
But once in the destination, this is what everyone's looking for. Everyone's looking for venues that have flowing air through them. They do not want to be in a ballroom surrounded by 4 walls if they can help it. So yes, we expect them to be the expert, the leader, to give us inspiration and guidance as to where we can put our next events. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. Goody. Okay. All right. So we have a second poll coming up. Lynette, can you bring that up? Second poll. Okay. So, my dear audience, can you just put in your answers? Can CVB sway your clients' confidence in the destination and travel intent now during this crisis? The options are quite simple: yes, no, and not sure. We learned from the first poll, so let's keep talking about whatever we're talking about while the answers are put in. Michelle, do you see the current communications from CVB now offering that sort of destination ideas?
Listen, well, I can say there's some that are doing a good job of it, and others who can improve, quite a bit, as you would imagine. But we're hungry for the information. We're certainly hungry for the information, and that kind of stuff can be shared with our clients, and that's the kind of thing that can be put into our EDMs. And gives us the reassurance and our clients reassurance that we are the experts. So you're helping us help them. That's how it goes around.
Yeah, that's true.
Michelle, can I just ask you? Oh, sorry.
I like to add. I like to sort of provide a few of the examples, especially to Michelle, in terms of fast track. And to answer your question, yes, we do. We still have fast track. And right now, the fast track is not only in Suvarnabhumi Airport. We already have fast track in Don Mueang Airport as well. So all the incoming travelers can enjoy the fast track in both airports. And currently, we have teamed up with the Ministry of Tourism to come up with new destination internally within Thailand to be an additional attractions, I would say. So we spend these COVID periods to repaint and renovate the in-house, and also rebuild new areas that I personally think will be very, very attractive, because when I look at the list, I personally would like to join as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, we have the results out. Again, majority are saying yes, that they think that the CVBs can sway their clients' confidence and decision in the destination and travel intent. That's good news for the CVBs, huh?
Yeah.
But we do have a number who are saying not too sure. So maybe the CVBs need to work a bit harder to move the answer to a yes, to a resounding yes now. Okay, we have a last question before we stop for the Q&A. So it's an add-on to the result of the poll. So how do you think, how influential can a CVB be in the event decision-making process, especially now when buying confidence is generally still weak? Is it different for the association meetings and for the corporate meetings? You can start with Michelle. Yeah. Oh,
Michelle.
sure. Yeah.
Would you like to start with me?
Michelle. Yeah. Okay, Michelle, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, listen, I think it all comes back down to what I've previously said. I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but there's certainly an influence there. Influence us with more value adds. We love it. Provide us with information. Encourage those around you not to bombard with separate emails, please. That's the direction we want to go in. We want one point of contact who can lead us in the right direction.
Okay. And Kitty, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, well, I've been saying reopen, say it loud and clear. And well, we just have to push our CVB to be more proactive in cannot say that reassure the safety or whatever, but looking at Taiwan, we have only 480 cases with 7 deaths. It's an amazing number. That what else can you convince people with? So, but you cannot push it too hard. People are scared. So how do we come to the middle and really talk a deal? Well, we try to, at least I did, every time that we talk to our clients, I would drag the Me Taiwan people over, and then we sit there and the webcam is facing us. There were like 10 people sitting there wearing masks and talking to our clients in London or somewhere else. So people, they would see it and they would have confidence in us. You can't just keep saying that we're safe, come, can't do that. But show them how we are, like I did that last time. I did a webinar in my car. I was driving. I was showing people, see, we're actually not locked down. That's true. And we have to keep trying, but in a milder way.
Okay. And Nichapa, you have something to say?
Yeah, I think in many cases, CVB can be a deal breaker. They can also be a deal breaker, maker and breaker. Yeah, because there are areas that CVB can be hugely facilitate or even formulate the collaboration recipe for, matchmake or be a bridge between suppliers and clients. Definitely, they have to be the info hub. They have to have a good intel and content to provide to international clients, basically. But again, I think it also depends on the policy of each CVB, how active they want to be, what role they want to play. Some CVBs would love to be just a passive supporter. Some would like to be an active partner. As for Thailand, we want to be an active partner. We want to be your collaborator. We want to be your thought leader. We want to be everything. We want to make sure that your events that you bring to Thailand can be a huge success and memorable, so that you can be our ambassador. And best of all, most of all, we want to be your friends. that's how we want to be. But one thing for me is that whatever support the CVB can put out or give out to the industry, it has to be appropriate. It has to be timely. It has to be enough. It has to be adequate for the situation. For example, subvention may not be the only solution. It can never be the linear solution to any events. But during this COVID thing, maybe financial subvention can be one of the primary source to keep the business going. So next year, we have a package internally. We call it a nickname as COVID package, which means that it is very special, both in terms of subvention, financial subvention. We also use the COVID thing to work with a lot of agencies, government agency, private operators, to be together and be, instead of the government give out the support, but it has to be the Thai community give out the support. So, for example, in corporate meetings, we have what we call I Am People Focused campaign. This campaign is the perfect example where CVB would give out subvention program, financial subvention program. Private operators would chip in their support. For example, if a group of 20 packs or book for 20 rooms, then the hotel would chip in another 20 rooms complementarily. For example, just like that. So there are so many areas that we are working on at the moment. And next year would be a COVID package. Corporate meetings would have I Am People Focused campaign. Convention would have a Convene Plus campaign. And also exhibition would have their re-energizing exhibition campaign. When we talk about the campaign, we are working on making sure that we homegrown domestic convention, because you mentioned a little bit about association meetings and also corporate meetings. Association meetings, they require certain bid model, 3 to 5 years timeline in order to do the bidding before the physical event would actually happening. Corporate meetings, however, they require a shorter, way shorter turnover in terms of request time and all. So instead of waiting, and this echoes the what Karen has been talking about, APAC for APAC or Asia for Asia. So instead of we wait for the global convention rotation to come back, and since its cycle has been interrupted by COVID, I think it is about time that Asia would have our own version. TCEB is now working on deep diving the domestic convention and see the possibility on how we can homegrown. And maybe, and I would like to call out for collaboration from, neighboring countries of Asia friends to also look into your own domestic conventions. And if you want to do or homegrown your conventions by having international ASEAN participations, then Thailand will be in with you. Yeah, and to me, that would be one of the most beautiful things that COVID can bring, because we can come up with new frontier for Asia or new legacy for Asia, but we need to work together on that front. So to answer your question, yes, CVB can be a good influencer, and hopefully the bad influencer area would be minimized in the future.
All right, thank you so much, Nichapa. I'm loving this conversation a lot, but I think we need to break out for the Q&A now. There are a couple of questions there. Kitty, I'm not sure, how are you on time? Because you have an important meeting to run off to.
Schedule my appointment, so I can stay.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, very good now. So we're going to move on to the Q&A. I'm looking at the list of questions, and my dear panelists, you can also see the Q&A card. So you can, if there are any questions that you want to pick out, you can also let me know. I would like to look at this statement/question that Michael Williams has posted. He says, this is a great opportunity for CVBs, destinations, and industry to share ideas and collaborate on addressing common challenges. Pooling our limited resources is the way to go. What do you think? So Nichapa, you've spoken about, bringing to life a greater collaboration on an Asia-to-Asia scale. I want to hear from the others. What do you think of a possible collaboration, and in what way that would actually work?
Well, I'll take the lead on this one, because I think we talked about this when we caught up last week, and certainly from a PCMA perspective, that's probably part of the reason why we're in the region, because we actually see those opportunities, both at supply side, but also at the planner side. So the planner side in our part of the world is less organised than it is in North America. And there's less structure around it, and that includes probably Europe in that. And that's partly because our region is at various stages of maturity, where we've got emerging markets and very established markets on the way through. So I think there's definitely an opportunity, and we will certainly be working with that through the PCMA, because we've got obviously partnerships with a lot of people, and we think there's an opportunity to bring all of that together and actually start having some of those conversations about building our community and building it for resilience and recovery. And I think, you know, this should not be a short-term view. This actually should be a medium-term view with a longer horizon on it. And I look at that when I think of, you know, we do have some destinations who are talking about association hubs, but I actually think we've got to get a little bit serious about it. And I think, you know, certainly for me as the head of, you know, I've been in 2 bureaus in Australia, when we pitched ourselves, we often pitched ourselves as a real entryway for those emerging associations getting into the region. And so we would definitely partner with associations within Asia-Pac. So there's no reason why we can't actually continue that, not only on the association side, but on the bureau side and even the PCO side. Because, you know, I'm a fan of, if a destination pulls together and wins, we can actually all come through it, and you know, we'll all get a piece of the pie at some stage. And so I think if we think about that, and I did put my hand up and said I'm happy to start that ball rolling, and I definitely will. And if anybody does want to reach out to me on that, please do so. But we will, I think there's just a real opportunity for us to stand out and ahead and actually be masters of our own destiny. And I think that's what it actually boils down to. It's about not waiting, it's about creating. And if we do more of that, then we'll all of a sudden, you know, not be as reliant on externals to you know, fund us, keep our businesses afloat. And I just think we'd be mad to walk away from that. And I think that, I don't know about you guys, but I think this has brought APAC together a little bit closer, because we're all being kind of tarred a little bit by the same brush. But what's recognized, and I'm on calls continuously all over the world, like probably most of you, but we are definitely seen as the shining light of how we come out of this. And I think we've got to capitalise on that very, very quickly. So that would be my view. And I'm definitely happy to put my hand up, and I will reach out to this community and certainly help make that a collaboration. It's by not an ownership, it's a collaboration that we all put in together and create something. So yes, Mike, hello, he's in Melbourne. He's probably like me in lockdown.
I second what she said. That was beautifully answered, Karen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of collaboration, if you didn't know. It makes so much more sense.
Right, we've been doing that since 2009, the WPCOA Alliance. The reason that we had this alliance is because that we want to collaborate with the other one. And it worked very, very well. Like our partner in Thailand, our partner in Australia and New Zealand, Jen and Sumat and many others, that we've been helping one another and going out as a alliance that really secure our piece of business because they trust our partner. And this is how it works. I'm sure the CVB can do the same. I mean, as people mixed up Thailand and Taiwan, and why don't we take advantage of that? You know, referring to the other, that how we could help one another. It's coming to our world, and very soon. I mean, if we work as a team. And for the European and the Americans now, they can see that although Melbourne has this lockdown again, comparing to any of the cities in Europe and the States are minor cases. So
correct.
Why can we do better? Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
I see an area of collaboration possibility here in sharing, you know, best practices in health and hygiene, and in bringing back activities and events, because, you know, we spoke about how it's impossible to open a border so simply, because you have to consider how the neighboring countries are also doing. So if you're doing well but your neighbors aren't, it's going to be difficult to restart travel and tourism again. So there is benefit if we could share our best practices so that everyone can recover fast enough, so that we can all be winners. Because in this case, there's not going to be one winner. There's going to be all losers anyway. Okay. Great. Let's take another question. Ian Morrison has asked, what has happened to famils? Are you planning any to kick-start the MICE process and build confidence? Yeah, what's happening to famils?
I was invited on one today and I was so excited. You would think I had been invited to Paris, but I had been invited to regional Australia, to a place only an hour and a half from my home. And I was so very excited that I had been invited. You know, from my point of view, from the PCO point of view, doing those local ones again is extremely exciting. I never normally have the time to go on these things. I feel in a very privileged and blessed position that I get invited on many famils that sadly I have to turn down. And finally, I get to rediscover my own country. Which is lovely, and you know, I hope that other countries are doing the same, because people like myself who are normally running at 110%, probably less so now, and if it's only a night or two to rediscover a local destination that we will have on the table for one of our clients, what a lovely thing to do. So bring it on, bring them back.
I so want to go on a famil. I want to go on a famil that I've organised. They were always top notch.
Yes.
I've never been spoiled. I've always been the hoster, not the host.
Damn that.
Maybe I'll go to Thailand.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Come to ECA Congress in November.
Kitty has been trying to get us on the party.
I'm going to my local shops. That's as exciting as my life actually will get. Trust
you
me.
Poor thing.
I know.
Are we looking at famils happening in Thailand, Nichapa? Even if it's a virtual famil, you know?
We actually plan for virtual family already, and we have a few of the groups, not a few, we have many groups that are in the process of confirmation. So the local destination are now working very hard in terms of, you know, making it presentable on a virtual point of view. And we also have been working with the series of, you know, associations, the supplier side, yeah, on the when will they be ready to sort of open up. But anything, let's just say that everything is ready. We are waiting for the government to announce the open up, the lift of travel restriction.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take one more question. It's from Kawai Lo. He's asked, you know, events is all about networking over tea breaks, cocktails, and buffets. How can we imagine MICE to be like when hygiene controls and social distancing, etc., are in place? Kitty, you did recently a bio event. It was a hybrid, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How were the social functions like, or were there any at all?
Well, we had this fantasy of asking Uber Eats to send them something, you know, but it would be too costly and too much logistics. So we kept on we asked them to bring their own stuff, you know, a glass of wine or something, just toast on the screen. That was people brought coffee, whatever, drinks, and well, crazy idea comes up, and you just have to choose, and then there are obstacles, there are gains, and it's an idea that we can do. And, this is what we tried but didn't succeed, but it brought out something that everyone was excited when we wanted to say cheers. You know, everyone had their cups ready or their glass ready, which was good. I don't, it's going to come back, I mean, in a different way of networking. We have to learn to face the camera and really talk sincerely. We never did that. So we just have to try and see how it goes. There's no answer for it.
So Karen, I've been working with a number of the hotel chains in regards to helping them with their COVID safe policies around the MICE industry. I suppose the big thing that we have been looking at is, you know, it's how do you change that whole buffet concept? How do you change those, you know, those breakouts and those morning tea and afternoon tea periods where there are beautiful things laid out in front of people? It's going to be a new era. You know, it's people are going to have to do things different ways. And sadly, well, I don't know if it's sadly, but sadly for the hotels, what it means for them and venues is a lot more work, a lot more labour intensity in regards to having to pre-arrange meals. For example, I ran my own staff conference last week, and for our morning tea, rather than have everything set out on a small buffet for the team, we were all handed individual plates with, you know, one of each item on the plate. It's a new day. It's hard. It's very, very hard. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you know, QR codes are going to play a major part of it now. Our mobile phones are our lifesaver. The whole contactless menu, when you even walk in to do a breakfast at a hotel from now on, you will order that via your mobile phone. You will not be handed a menu. The menu will be on your phone via a QR code. It is a different world. It's a different world. But I have used the QR code concept. I've been doing that at local bars and restaurants in Australia, and it's actually fun. I like the idea of not holding a menu that 50 other people have held that day. You know, it's, you know, whether it's COVID or no COVID, I kind of like that idea. I like the idea that I can pay for everything via my phone, you know, in any way possible. So it's a new world, and it is a learning experience, and it takes all of us who are in this industry to give our feedback to venues and hotels as to what we expect. Yes, if there are food stations, let there be beautiful food stations. We all love the aromas of that during tea breaks and during lunches, but maybe there's perspex covers involved. Maybe the only person who's allowed to touch the food is the chef who puts it on your plate and then passes it to you, rather than you having hold of those tongs and putting your hands in it yourself. So believe me, that the venues, the hotels of the world are going crazy working out how they need to do this. And I feel for them greatly, because I know what kind of labour is now involved in this, but this is the new world.
Right. And I believe
I'm personally
that
okay about losing the buffet.
Yeah, and even though it is post-COVID, I think the way that we order food through mobile, it will not go away, because it will become, it will no more be the new norm, but it will already be incorporated in the way that we live. And how we work, really. That's how technology can transform the way that the old world is gone. The old world is gone. Right now, we have to get used to that and make sure that we capitalize on whatever that comes in terms of technology, so that we can bring in new experience, or if not the experience, then anything that can promote touchless experience would be the key.
Exactly.
Because that translates directly to, you know, the fear of the clients. Many people right now, they would not want to, like what Michelle said, they would not want to touch anything that they don't feel safe about it. This can be a new, maybe it can be a new way to find sponsorship.
Yes, I agree.
Getting there yet.
Okay, I know we were going to overrun. We have a lot to say. We need to catch up separately and privately after this. I have to end this session. Thank you so much. There are more questions that we could answer, obviously, during this short Q&A. So I'll be sharing the questions. So actually, the panelists can actually see them. And we'll see whether they are able to answer any of those questions that they are able to take. Yeah. For my audience, can you please stay on to complete a post-event survey, because that will help us improve our future sessions. Now, please join me in thanking our panelists, Karen, Nichapa, Kitty, and Michelle, for devoting their time to us and to share their insights and observations this afternoon. So thank you so much, everyone. Yeah,
if you
take good care.
This, let me know. I'll send it to you.
Sure. Great. Okay. Take good care, everyone. Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.